I'm Emily McCabe, and this is Fishing Game Changers, brought to you by Maine Department of Inland Fisheries and Wildlife. In this series, I join our staff in the field to learn more about what they do, why they love it, and what drives them to apply their time and talent to the Maine outdoors. It's mid-morning on a warm June day, and I've just arrived at Haynes Landing in Aquasic, where a team of fisheries biologists are gathered, already several hours into their workday.
Okay, 3:14. 275.
There's a table set up on the dock underneath a pop-up canopy, and around the table is a series of buckets and coolers filled with water and aerators. On the table are some of the tools of the trade that I recognize from past days spent in the field with fisheries staff: a scale with a wire basket to weigh fish, a wooden measuring board, and other tools used to collect scale and fin samples.
One more.
It's certainly a scene that would pique the curiosity of anyone who might be walking by. So, what is going on here today? As I approach the end of the dock, I'm immediately greeted with a friendly hello from Fisheries Biologist Liz Thorndike. Even when she's up to her elbows in work, she's always such a good sport when it comes to allowing me to document her on the job. The rest of the team isn't quite as happy to see me with my camera and audio recorder in hand, but they welcome me anyway. You might remember Liz from the very first episode of this podcast series. She is currently the Fisheries Resource Supervisor here in the Rangeley Lakes region, and she's been working as a fisheries biologist at Maine Department of Inland Fisheries and Wildlife for over 10 years. In addition to her normal workload, she is currently overseeing a large-scale telemetry project that has gained quite a bit of support and attention from the local angling community. So now that I'm here, I'm eager to see what they're up to.
We are on beautiful Mooselookmeguntic Lake here in Aquasic, and we are doing a large telemetry project where we're tagging brook trout and landlocked salmon with radio transmitters.
Yep, you heard that right. Liz and the team are taking brook trout and landlocked salmon from Mooselookmeguntic and putting tiny little radio transmitters in them to gather data about their movements around the lake and surrounding tributaries.
This is something the department's wanted to do for quite a while now. And really, Mooselookmeguntic is one of the largest lakes in the state, and it has a lot of tributaries, and it's very blessed with wild, self-sustaining brook trout and landlocked salmon. And what else it has is many miles of shoreline and streams. And so this telemetry project will help us narrow down where are salmon and brook trout spawning, where are they staging, when are they doing that, even things, such as, when are they leaving tributaries or where are they in the summer and things like that. But so this was, the ultimate goal is to figure some of these things out. But to get there, telemetry projects, they're very time consuming and cost money. So we partnered with Rangeley Lakes Heritage Trust, both financially and with staff who have been helping us, and also the Rangeley Region Guides and Sportsmen. We have local guides and anglers who are actually out on the lake right now catching our fish and bringing them to us, and then we're implanting the radio transmitters inside of them.
So at this point, you're probably wondering how on earth you put a transmitter inside a fish without harming it or disrupting its ability to go about its normal fishy life. There are volunteer anglers out on the lake who are catching the fish. If they're able to land a brookie or landlocked salmon that could be used in the study, then they place them in a live well and transport them back to the landing where Liz and the team are waiting. The fish is put into a bucket and anesthetized, and then Liz carefully and skillfully performs a quick little surgery to implant the transmitter. Liz explained to me that only brook trout and landlocked salmon that are large enough to be unaffected by the implanted device are selected, and the smaller fish that are included in the study receive just a small yellow dorsal tag called a Floy tag.
We're out on the water at the end of the dock, and when anglers bring us a fish, we try to work quickly. If it's under a certain weight, then we put in just a simple yellow dorsal tag. And then if it weighs enough to take a radio transmitter, then we start a different process. And how we pick a fish for a radio transmitter, it depends on how much it weighs. So we like the transmitter to weigh between 2 and 3% of the body weight. And that's simply so we don't disrupt the fish. We don't want to put something in the fish that's so heavy it disrupts their feeding habits, or, potentially they won't spawn. So we like to have it be just enough that they don't really know it's there. So we look at the weight of the fish to determine if it gets just a yellow dorsal tag or if it's going to have surgery and get an internal radio transmitter. We have a special bucket of water that has something in it that kind of puts the fish to sleep and anesthetizes the fish, just like humans do if we're going into surgery. We're not awake for it, and neither are the fish. So the fish is laying still while during the surgery, which only takes a couple minutes. And we have a hose that's pumping water into the mouth and over the gills, because obviously we don't want to keep a fish out of water during the surgery. We make a small incision, maybe about an inch long, implant the internal piece of the radio transmitter into the body cavity, and we thread the trailing antenna out beyond that, and then we sew it up with 3 stitches or so, and then we put the fish in fresh water, and it wakes up within a couple minutes.
Once the fish is fully revived, it's kept in a tank of fresh water and taken by boat to be released back into the location on the lake where it was originally caught. The tagged fish then officially becomes part of the study and could potentially provide very useful data to help Liz and other fisheries biologists to better understand the spawning habits of the wild brook trout and landlocked salmon in the area. To be successful in collecting enough data, they need to catch a minimum number of brook trout and landlocked salmon to tag and put radio transmitters in.
Our goal is 75 brook trout and 50 landlocked salmon. And the reason we're doing more brook trout than salmon, one, it's a large lake, but 2, we have a good idea that most of the salmon are running up the Kennebago River, which is the larger tributary, and has what we are assuming the best spawning habitat for salmon. Brook trout, however, are much more opportunistic and are able to use a lot different spawning habitats. So they could be spawning anywhere along the shore, small tributaries. Mooselookmeguntic Lake has very large tributaries. It has Kennebago River, Cupsuptic River, Bemis Stream, Rangeley River. And that's just a few, so many miles of streams they could be in. So we're really hoping that 75 brook trout will really help us narrow down where those fish are going.
A large project like this is a big undertaking, so why do it? And why is it important to study the spawning behavior of wild brook trout and landlocked salmon?
Mooselookmeguntic Lake, again, is a wild fishery, self-sustaining. It's a popular fishery. It receives a lot of pressure. And so if we can determine where they're staging, spawning, when this activity is happening, really we can ensure that for the future we are protecting and have adequate protection over these fish. And also, is there places we could expand opportunity? So really it's just going to help us learn more about the fishery and our future goals and management. Are they aligning? Is there things we should change? Make sure we have adequate protection on these wild resources.
This study on Mooselookmeguntic isn't the first telemetry project to be executed here in Maine, but it is one of the largest to date and the first one in the Rangeley Lakes region.
It's similar to the famous Moosehead project everybody's heard about. Of course, you start pulling 5-6 pound trout out of the water, everybody hears about it. And certainly Mooselookmeguntic has very large trout as well, and we've seen some beauties during this tagging project. This will be one of the largest ones in the state, however, and part of that is because, one, it's a large lake, but 2, we're really trying to figure out proportionally where are these fish going. So again, a fish could die of natural causes after we tag it. It could get caught by an angler. It could potentially be preyed upon. So there's a lot of things that could happen to the fish. So we want a large number of fish out there to help us with our return information. But it's not uncommon to do this. There's been several projects throughout the state on char and lake trout as well. So it's not uncommon. This is the first one on Mooselookmeguntic Lake here in the Rangeley region, though. So the community's pretty excited, and so are we.
How has the community supported you?
Oh my goodness, we are so fortunate. I frequently say that I work in the best part of the state, and after this project, it's pretty clear. the first morning we were getting donuts and coffee, and I think I've gained weight on this project, but everything from housing, water supply, dock space, it's endless. And then, a lot of these anglers are guides or camp owners. They're taking time off of work. They're using their own boats, their own fishing gear, their gas. I mean, it's amazing, the outreach. And some of these guides are not from this region, but they have a connection and they love this area and are just willing to help. It's really amazing, the community.
Do you have any guesses as to why people care so much, like why they're willing to?
Well, if you just look out, it's pretty clear, but Rangeley it has a draw to it. It has a long history, a long heritage. It's got a little bit of everything. It has, the views, the fishing, the hunting, and it's just one of those places you come here and you fall in love, and it's why so many people come back. And I've said it before and I'll say it again, I work where people go on vacation. So it's pretty easy.
Even after all the fish are caught, tagged, documented, and released, the community will continue to play an important role in the project. If an angler catches one of the tagged fish, they can help contribute important data to the study.
If an angler catches a fish that's been tagged, all the fish, whether it has an implanted radio tag or just a floy tag, any fish we've handled should have a yellow dorsal tag. And it is key, really, the success of this study, the floy yellow tags, depends on the anglers committing to this project. So essentially, if an angler catches a fish with a yellow dorsal tag, we really need them to report it.
So if an angler catches one of the tagged fish, they can check the yellow floy tag, which is near the dorsal fin of the fish. The tag is imprinted with a URL where the angler can report the catch online by entering the unique ID number also printed on the tag. It's up to the angler whether they want to keep the fish or release it, but it is strongly encouraged that a fish with a radio transmitter is released alive so that biologists can continue to collect data from it over time.
It really comes down to angler participation. And the radio telemetry part of it, if an angler catches a fish with that wire hanging out of the belly, we're strongly encouraging them to release the fish, but by all means, they're allowed to keep the fish. Like I've said, we've tagged some beautiful fish, so we understand if anglers want to keep it. We're encouraging them to release it, and the reason is the batteries only last so long. So some of the batteries last a little over 400 days, and some of them last a little over 900 days, and while the battery's in the fish and the fish is swimming around, we can track it around, and that's how we're going to learn where are they going, when are they going, where are they spawning and staging. And so a lot's to be learned, but we do ask if an angler keeps it. They report that, and then they give us back the tag, because the tag can still be used if the battery's still good. And so potentially we can put it in another fish and learn more information. So yeah, we just request if an angler catches a fish with a yellow dorsal tag that you report it. Feel free to keep it or release it. Take a picture, write the number down. It should be very simple, but certainly you can always call if they have questions. But I'm trying to make it as simple and easy as possible.
If you catch a tagged fish and plan to release it, then it's important to remember to follow the best practices for catch and release to ensure that the fish is returned to the water safely.
So if you catch one of those fish, if you're lucky enough to catch one of the 125 fish swimming around, and you do plan on releasing it, we request you work quickly, efficiently, unhook it as fast as possible, keep it in, use a rubber net if you have one, use a net to release it, try to handle the fish as little as possible, land it. To get it in the boat, you very well may see the antenna kind of trailing behind the fish. As I mentioned, it's anywhere from 8 to 9 inches long, and so yeah, just really try to handle the fish very carefully, so that way we'll hopefully keep swimming and keep telling us more information. The things like wet your hands, and I would say, if you ever plan on releasing a fish, always have your forceps ready. That way you're not always digging around for them, and it never fails. You can't find them when you need them, so just have them right out and ready. And, make sure to net your fish and release it carefully. Maybe, hold it in the water for a couple seconds and let it swim off. Always good things to do. Things we want to know if an angler catches a fish with a tag in it is, where did you catch it? So all the fish have been tagged and released in Mooselookmeguntic Lake, but perhaps later this summer or early fall, you're in one of the rivers and you catch one of those fish. That's something we really want to know. And so, A, where are you? Hopefully you know that. And then, B, the number on the tag, and then how long is the fish? So that way we can figure out how much this fish has grown since the last time we handled it. And potentially if you release it, we might hear about it the next year and figure out how long it is that year. So we can really follow the fish just through the small tag in anglers' participation.
You might be curious to know how the data from the project will be shared with the public and what the results of the study will look like.
Obviously, this is a very large project, so there will be reports on it, but there will be a lot of data to pull together and analyze. So it may be several years before a final project, because as I mentioned, some of those tags last over 900 days. So potentially we could be tracking fish for years, which is great. Are these fish returning to the same locations every time? Things like that we can learn. Are they repeatedly spawning every year? So a lot can be learned, but I think, within the community, certainly we'll be doing some presentations, kind of summaries, updating things like that. But yeah, we certainly will be reporting. Anglers will be hearing about it. There may be some smaller updates annually. And then, at the very end, this could be several years out, a larger report.
Obviously, people are curious about it.
Oh yes, we've had a lot of anglers asking if is this live GPS? Can we go online and figure out where these fish are? And no, that's not how it works. So we physically have to track these fish down, and we can do that by boat, by plane. We coordinate with the Warden Service. We're very fortunate to partner with the Warden Service, and they help us track the fish sometimes. So we can do it by boat, plane. If they're up a stream, we could canoe the stream, and we could walk it. If the road is close enough, we could have an antenna, hooked to the truck and drive it. So there's many different ways we can track the fish. We will have some stationary receivers on some of the larger tributaries. So if a fish passes it, it'll record it, and then we'll have to pull that information off onto a computer. But yeah, we'll physically be out there. We'll be up here quite a bit tracking the fish to learn their habits.
Thanks for joining me in the field and learning more about some of the important work being done to better conserve and protect our wild brook trout and salmon. If this episode has piqued your interest and you'd like to learn more about freshwater fisheries management in Maine, then head on over to mefishwildlife.com/fisheries. If you'd like to learn more about this podcast series or to listen to past episodes, then visit mefishwildlife.com/changers. Be sure to tune in next week as I chat with another member of the Inland Fisheries and Wildlife team and explore what it is that makes them a game changer. In the meantime, be sure to hit subscribe on your favorite listening app, and if that app happens to be Apple Podcasts, then take a moment to leave us a review and let us know what you think. Thanks for listening.